So hi guys, and welcome back to the channel. As you can see, I'm no longer in Cornwall. I'm in the heart of the Cairngorms at the moment for a family holiday, and I've just broke away from the family to do a bit of winter snow tracks and signs today. Now I've brought all my kit with me for some photography, but things are really thin on the ground. Obviously being winter, a lot of stuff's hiding away. Squirrel activity, very, very quiet. A few birds around, a few deer kicking about. Most things are moving around at night. So I thought I'd do some tracks and signs. Now obviously when there's no snow around, a lot of animals move around rather quietly, and you can ordinarily find out where they've been. You can follow trails and tracks, you can see scats, pellets, all that sort of stuff. But when you're in this sort of environment with snow, obviously they leave their telltale signs behind. So what we're going to do today is we're going to go through the forest, work our way up into the hills, look around, find some tracks and signs that we've seen. We'll look at footprints, obviously any seed, any pine cones and stuff like that that's fallen, things that may have eaten them, regular paths through, and some things to look out for as well, and how to identify certain species. Obviously things like hares, fox, badger, the mustelid family, birds, things like that. Although birds are quite difficult to ID for them just by their footprints, so that's quite difficult. But we're going to take a mooch through today. Got the camera in the back as well. Going to do a bit of, hopefully, some a few scenes and things like that. There's nice birch woodlands and things around, and just really get out there, get amongst it. It's so quiet. It's lovely. Birch woodland, Scots pine, Sitka spruce. Oh, it's just lush. So going to head off, have a look round, and hopefully you guys can pick up some tips there, and also just generally just walking around talking and about the things I do, scout out locations, things like trail cameras I've already put out, but we'll go into that a bit later on. But let's get going, and hopefully we'll find some tracks. I had permission from the park rangers to put up a squirrel feeding station in the woods, quite a remote spot. And here I've just bought a fairly cheap one off Amazon, just with some hazelnuts and some monkey nuts in there, and I've put a little few branches up there, and I've got a stump just down there as well, just for some treats for the squirrels, hoping to get a red squirrel in. The camera also there can pick up maybe any hare, any deer moving through and stuff. Just really, they're a great idea. Trail cams are awesome. For this type of work, really, if you're setting up, going away, doing some photography, always make sure you get permission off the landowners first to make sure you're allowed to put cameras out, especially if there's a chance of the general public coming past the cameras as well. Not only may they get pinched, but also for the privacy aspect of things as well. So just make sure you get permission and put them into a remote location like I've got here. So they're a great tool for a photographer, really. Doing your recce work cuts down that time you're spending out in the field. Put your cams out, check on them regularly, and then you can see what's about. Work out routines, work out times of day that animals and birds are active, and you can then work your photography around that. But I use a Browning Recon Force Elites HP4 and a HP5, and thanks to Craig who got me onto these trail cameras. They are absolutely fantastic. I've had some Bushnell ones in the past, some other cheaper models, and they just don't cut the mustard. But these are absolutely superb. The quality is amazing. So hopefully at the end of the video you'll get to see some trail cam footage, hopefully, of maybe some animals and birds and stuff like that. But so yeah, all I've done there is just foraged for some natural materials around, set them up against this birch tree. I've not tacked it into the tree, I've just tied it on with a strap there, and just put a little runner going up to the feeding station there. Now this has been out for a couple of days and I've had nothing on the cam just yet, but head off into the wilderness to see what we can see. So guys, literally just walked about 50 yards and already we've got fresh sign here of hare, poo or rabbit. Quite nice and fresh. There's a little track running along here, as you can see, and that's obviously a little run there I've come through. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to stick the next trail camera up along this line here, and hopefully we'll pick up some hare and stuff moving through. So guys, just stopped on this bank after just coming up quite a big hill, and just looking around now below a lot of these trees. Obviously predominantly here it's pine forest, so just below a larch tree over there, and it looks like, I'm not massively brilliant on the ID, but we've got some larch over there, and just looking on the floor, here we go, straight away, as you can see there, they're little pine cones from the larch tree. And the larch tree is obviously deciduous, so it drops its leaves, not like some of the conifers which are evergreen and they keep their leaves throughout the year. Obviously they do drop, but like the larch completely drops its needles, certainly in the autumn and winter, so you can spot those a mile off. And just looking over here, these haven't been placed by me. Now this is off a spruce tree, as you can see there. Put some images on the screen of some groups of these, but these are great food source for a lot of mammal species and especially birds. Now up here in Scotland we get crossbills, so you get the common crossbill, the parrot crossbill, and you get the Scottish crossbill, which is endemic to Scotland. And what they do with these, because they've got those unique crossover bills, as they put their bill in, they prise it apart, get inside the cone, and then extract the seed from inside. Woodpeckers also like these as well. And what woodpeckers do is they pick these up, maybe not one as big as this, and they jam them in crevices, and then they can literally get in there and hammer in and then extract the seed from there. And obviously squirrels love Scots pine and a lot of the spruce trees as well to feed on as well, especially this time of the year. Obviously being in the summer months, they don't get a lot of chance with that because of the fact that obviously the fruit isn't ripe. But that's just some of the species as we're walking around really. As I say, could be, I think they're Sitka spruce, most of them. I think there are different types, different variants. Obviously being like Caledonian pine forest and things like that, absolutely crucial for the ecosystem here in Scotland, and obviously the regeneration of that is all going ahead at the moment, especially in the Cairngorms, places like Mar Lodge and things like that. But yeah, we're going to crack on now, have a look out elsewhere to see if we can pick up some signs in the snow. It's a little bit wet today, so a lot of the snow is actually melting, so it's going to be quite difficult to find some tracks, but we'll hopefully get through, have a look, and see if we can pick up some. Okay guys, here we have some deer slots here, crossing a track down into the forest. And as you can see there, that is actually quite small, by the size of my hand. Now all deer have similar tracks, but size is always a clue, and obviously the area you're in, if you know there's going to be fallow, if there's going to be roe deer, if there's going to be red deer in the area, you kind of pretty much narrow that down. But this one here looks very much like roe deer. Roe deer are about 5 centimetres from top to bottom and about 4 centimetres in width. Fallow deer are about 7, so a little bit longer, and by about 5 centimetres, and red deer is 9 centimetres by 7 centimetres in width. So obviously red being the largest there, that gives you an indication that that's probably a roe deer track there. What you've got to bear in mind as well is that deer tracks themselves look very much like sheep. So a slot is a footprint indentation left by deer family. But sheep are quite a lot wider at the base, and the deer, red deer and fallow deer and roe deer, they taper off a bit as well, more than the rounded base there. But as you can see there, being quite small, we think that one there is a roe deer, and obviously the roe deer would have come this direction, and that's the rear, and that's the point just there, as you can see, and it's come through the forest there and then gone back up into the hills. But that's a bit of an indicator there about how to spot deer slots. I say this area is pretty good for roe, fallow and red, so I would say that was a young roe deer, possibly, and there's a few more prints around, but they've all been ruined with the rain, unfortunately. But right, onwards, see if we can find some more. So I'm continuing on following the tracks as well from left by the deer, and as you can see they are actually quite close together. Obviously if that was a larger adult, that would be a lot further apart, so I'm thinking that is quite a small young roe, possibly a young red, but I would say roe deer. But it's going all the way through here. Just going to walk on through. This snow is getting eaten away by the rain now. It's just going off into this track into the woods here, you can see. Just going off into there, probably in there, in cover, and then it went back up into the hills to feed. So just heading down from the top there, and certainly quite a way up. And it's rain started to come in now, quite heavy. So I'm just going to make my way back down to the valley, tuck myself away in the forest. A lot of the tracks unfortunately are getting washed away, and I'm having quite a lot of difficulty to find some tracks. So I'm going to head down where a lot of the snow's inside the forest, then we can have a look through and see if we can find any tracks that way. Because it's all washing it away. There's been a few deer tracks, but they're not really that well defined. So going to go and see if we can find some more. So guys, probably unlikely to find any red squirrels today, and especially red squirrels prints in the snow. But just something to be bearing in mind, that red squirrel and grey squirrel are going to be very similar. Just check your area you're in. If you know there's greys, it's likely to be grey, and if your area in reds like this place, then obviously you know it's going to be a red squirrel. And they look like tiny, tiny handprints in the snow. So the hind feet are about 4.5 centimetres by 3.5 centimetres. The front feet are about 3.5 centimetres by 2.5 centimetres. And you can get them quite confused with hare and rabbit, but generally rabbits and hares leave less of an indentation in the snow due to that fur lining around the feet. But they're quite similar because they're larger at the rear and smaller at the front. But just bear that in mind if you're looking for the tracks. You can put things out as well, a little clay mud based track ID thing, so when the squirrels and any mammals walk past, they may leave a print and you can measure it out and check it that way. I usually have a little ruler with me just to check the lengths if I'm out tracking and stuff like that, but I haven't got it with me today. But that's just something to bear in mind for tracking red and grey squirrels and the similarities between the rabbit and hare species. So the rain's coming in pretty hard now, so I'm just sheltering in the forest, just get out the rain for a bit, and the tracks really are starting to get well washed away now. Very, very hard to make out a lot of them, but I'm hoping maybe we can get a few more before they completely wash away. I think it's due to be heavy later on this afternoon, so hopefully we'll be able to get a few more tracks in the bag. If not, what I'll do with a lot of it is that if the tracks aren't particularly great and not very well defined, then I'll just put a little picture up next to it on the video just to indicate to you what species it is and what to look out for, because I can't get them all today, unfortunately, with this rain now, and I'll be tracking for ages trying to find every species. But I'm hoping we can find a fox. I did see a fox track down the way. I'm hoping to head down there, see if it's still there, and then we can talk through a bit about the fox, and hopefully we can just continue on a bit about the badger, but that might be a little bit difficult now. But yeah, we'll see. Hopefully, let's have my brew and wait for the rain to die down, and then we'll head out. So we've actually found a possible fox print here, but this could also be a dog. So fox tracks can be confused with dogs, but are generally diamond shaped. It's not quite, it's quite large. It's very difficult to say. So similar with dogs, foxes then obviously related. They've got 4 toes, 2 at the front, 2 at the sides, and claw marks may be visible, and you can see just inside there, that's quite visible. And they're about 5 centimetres long by about 4 centimetres wide. Okay, so generally that could be a dog, that could be a fox, not totally sure. I would say that's possibly a dog maybe. It seems quite large. And also when you're looking at the print, if you follow the prints through the snow for their direction, generally foxes will go in a straight line and they stick to the route, whereas dogs are a bit more erratic and they'll generally spread themselves around. So hard to say, but that's the thing you're looking out for. Very similar to a dog, but 5 centimetres by 4 centimetres and generally diamond shaped. But that's quite interesting. Gonna have a little track down a little bit further and see if we can see any more. But I'm hedging my bets. It's difficult to say, but I think that's possibly a dog, but I can't be sure. But it's come from inside the forest, so not really on a walking route, so we'll see. But we'll track on down and see if we can pick up some more. Typical poo here, and that is hare. That's brown hare poo, quite fresh. It's just below a berry tree at the minute, and you can see it's all around here. But a fairly good indicator that it's quite large, certainly bigger than a rabbit. So I'd say definitely for the location and the altitude we're at, that will be brown hare, not mountain. But yeah, nice to see. Tracks, as you can see there at the back, 2 large and then 2 smaller at the front, and it's been heading that way up into the forest there, probably where it's been laid up. But you can see that's all the way from there, and my big clodhoppers there. But yeah, definitely brown hare. Well, I found a major indication here of a possible rabbit. Yeah, a lot smaller, and there's some fresher ones there. Quite difference in size there. Fair difference in size. Slightly darker, but it's all around here. And it looks like that's a track going out into the grass there, so that would make sense. And then tracks all the way back in here. And there's a track going up that way. So I'm thinking hare, rabbit tracks. Hard to say with the track itself, but just cross this river and see. Going all the way up through here. Very hard to say. Yeah, this is definitely hare moving through here, that track, all the way down, following that track all the way to where I saw all the poo a moment ago. So definitely moving its way up here. There's some more poo, even more definitive, stopped the toilet, and you can see there where it stopped and created a larger depression all the way around. And went to toilet there, that's definitely hare, that's massive. So that's a great place to put up a camera trap. You've seen it's using a regular route, so stick a camera trap up, back up your info, you've had a look, you think it's a hare, get a camera trap up. If you pick it up, boom, then your ID's confirmed. So yeah, a really good way, but I'm gonna have a little look into here now. Still hoping to find a badger print if we can, but yeah, we'll have a look. So guys, we're probably not going to get to see a badger today, but as you can see in the photograph there, the badger prints are quite distinguished. So they have 5 toes with a broad rear pad where the claw marks or the claws are pretty visible. They're up to 5 centimetres long and 6.5 centimetres in width. They can be confused with cat tracks, but cat tracks only show 4 toes and there'll be no claw marks, because when cats are running and walking, they retract the claws. So that's a bit of a giveaway indicator there, but you're unlikely to come across a large cat like that. As you can see here, these are cones off a spruce tree, still fixed as went through before. Really, really nice. And there, got a little colt just feeding in front of me. Wow, I don't know if you can see that on the GoPro. Wow, if you let me go a little bit closer. Wow, don't bring your zoom lens with you, and there you get a nice close encounter with a colt. How close is that? Wow, fantastic little bird. Awesome, great to see. We've got a wood ant mound in there that's been made up over a considerable time, and on top we've got quite a lot of poo. It's got a mixture of bird poo, very stringy there, could indicate a bit of deer as well, and there's some very tabular type forms there, if you can see that. Quite unique. Obviously I wash my hands afterwards and it's not going to do me any harm, but it's really good. Something's been digging into that. And obviously green woodpecker, there's probably, although they're quite scarce in these parts, green woodpecker love to feed on ants, so this is probably a place where it's located and then fed from here. But yeah, superb, really, really nice. Obviously in a dormant state at the moment, obviously deep down inside, nice and warm, away from the cold, but great to see. It's the best thing sometimes is just, you know, take time out, go and have a little explore, look and see what you can find. If you can't ID anything, just get a picture of it, put your hand in there for a scale if you haven't got any ruler, get home, do a bit of research and find out what you've got. Sometimes it's one of the best ways to find out what species you've got in your area. So guys, we're probably not going to get to see many of the smaller mustelids today, things like the weasel, the stoat, the pine marten and the mink. But they're all fairly similar, but obviously size does vary. I won't reel off the different sizes, but I can put that in the vlog description. But they're all quite similar. There's 5 toes and they've all got possible claw marks on there as well, and they're all in varying sizes. Just beware though, obviously with the 5 toes, one may not be visible on the print. They usually miss one out. I think it's the way they walk. Usually there's a very soft depression there, so it could fool you into thinking it's something else. But just bear that in mind, they do vary quite a bit. But you can back that up as well if you've got trail cams out, poo, scats, all that sort of stuff. You can just work out the ID from there, and especially the environment they're in as well. If you know there's pine martens in the area, if you know there's mink in the area, or stoat or weasel or whatever, and you can back that up there. So as you can see here, guys, at the moment we've got some red deer poo there. Backing that up, we've got quite a large slot just there and all the way round there. So another great indicator there of the deer coming through. Obviously not a great deal of snow now, so it's leaving a nice imprint there in the mud, but another ones to look out for. They are quite large. Look at the size of my finger there, and there's the slots moving off all in this direction. Guys, we've stumbled across some nice bird tracks, as you can see there, there and there, going up through the wood. Bird tracks are obviously quite hard to identify different species of birds, but if you're looking in a woodland environment like this, blackbirds spend a lot of time on the ground. They're quite large. I would say that's probably a pheasant. Obviously 3 toes there, as you can see, and they look generally like an arrowhead. So as you can see there, if you're looking that way, straight down, arrowhead, but you kind of know something's been walking through its patch here. Quite lucky to see those, to be honest, because they are quite thin and they do disappear quite quickly. So I would say, hedging my bets, that's probably a pheasant in here, and hopefully we've got a camera nearby here, and hopefully that will pick up our would-be pheasant coming through. I mean, it could be other species of bird as well, but I'm thinking it's probably pheasant. But that's what you're looking out for, really. But they are difficult to distinguish between species of birds. Obviously things like ducks and things like that, larger prints, obviously eagles, birds of prey, but ordinarily you can see that the bird's been using that track through the woodland. So great find, that one, but it's getting quite dark outside now, and I'm pretty wet through, and I've walked a fair way today. So yeah, going to have another little trek through, another hour, and see if we can pick up some more signs. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed that vlog today on animal tracks and signs. Obviously slightly different from the old photography side of things, but behind the scenes, you know, when I'm out and about doing my recce work, that's one thing I'm looking for, not especially when it's snowing, because we don't get snow where I am, but just be aware, you know, work out the tracks and signs, direction of travel, get some pictures, use a scale, get yourself a book, do some ID work, set a trail cam up, like I said, along known paths. Then you can then back up your suspicions of what bird, mammal is coming through that way, and also, you know, invest in something decent, a decent trail camera, and also some decent tracking books as well. I'll put a link in my vlog description of some of the really good tracking books you can buy. But it's a lot of fun, you know, and it's not an exact science. You know, today obviously quite difficult with some of the signs because of the wind and from the rain as well, washing a lot of the tracks away. But 9 times out of 10, you can give yourself a fighting chance of working out what species is coming through your patch. And as I say, fieldcraft is kind of a massive part of photography. It's not just about getting out there, sitting in a hide and taking pictures. It's getting on the ground, knowing your subjects, knowing your species, working out what times they're going to be passed, activating trail cameras. You can set up remote camera traps, etc, etc. It's all there. It's all great fun, and you know, it enhances your knowledge as a wildlife photographer. But yeah, thanks very much for following me today for this video. You know, in the Cairngorms, it is in a magical place. Really, really thin on the ground with the bird species, but got a few nice little stills there as well that I'll put at the end. But hopefully you guys will see some trail cam footage at the end too, from 6 days of setting up the cam traps. But as always guys, thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you all next time.